found out my perfect husband has been living a double life, but not in the way you'd think. I need to get this off my chest because I feel like I'm losing my mind and I can't talk to anyone in my real life about this without everything exploding. I'm sorry this is long, but I need to get all of this out. My husband James and I have been married for 6 years, together for 9. Everyone always told me how lucky I was. James is handsome, successful, attentive, remembers every important date, brings me flowers just because, plans thoughtful surprises. He's a corporate consultant, travels sometimes for work, but always calls me every night when he's away. We have a beautiful home in the suburbs, 2 cats, and we were actively trying for a baby. On paper, my life looked perfect. 3 weeks ago, that all fell apart. It started with something stupid. I was looking for the warranty information for our dishwasher, which was making this god-awful grinding noise. James usually keeps all that stuff organized in his home office, filed away in labeled folders because he's meticulous like that. He was on a work trip to Chicago, so I went into his office to find it myself. The filing cabinet was locked. Now, I know how this sounds. I know, but in 9 years together, that filing cabinet had never been locked. I'd grabbed documents from it dozens of times. We didn't have a relationship where we locked things from each other. We knew each other's phone passwords. We shared bank accounts. The locked cabinet felt wrong. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I ordered takeout, watched Netflix, tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe he locked it by accident. Maybe there were important client documents in there. Totally reasonable explanations. But it gnawed at me. At 11 p.m., I found myself in his office again, staring at that cabinet. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was turning into one of those wives who goes crazy and ruins a good marriage over nothing. But my hands were already searching through his desk drawer for the key. I found it taped underneath the desk drawer. Who does that? Who tapes a key underneath furniture like they're in a spy movie? My heart was pounding as I unlocked the cabinet. Part of me expected to find evidence of an affair, hotel receipts, love letters, something that would confirm the sick feeling in my stomach. Part of me hoped I'd find nothing but boring tax documents so I could laugh at myself for being paranoid. What I found was so much stranger. The cabinet was full of files, but they weren't about work or taxes. They were about a person named Marcus Wells. There were report cards from elementary school, medical records, a birth certificate, therapy intake forms from when he was 12, articles printed from local newspapers about a high school basketball team, a college acceptance letter to a state school I'd never heard James mention. Photographs of a young man who looked sort of like James but different. Softer features, longer hair, a more uncertain smile. I sat on the floor of his office until 3 a.m., going through every single document. Marcus Wells grew up in a small town in Ohio called Millfield. His father was a factory worker who died when Marcus was 7. His mother worked 2 jobs. He played basketball in high school but wasn't good enough for a scholarship. He went to community college for a year, then dropped out. There were medical records indicating treatment for depression and anxiety. There was a police report from when he was 19, arrested for marijuana possession, charges eventually dropped. And then Marcus Wells seemed to disappear. The last document dated to 12 years ago was a name change form. Marcus Anthony Wells officially became James Marcus Whitmore. My husband didn't just change his name. He erased an entire person. I don't know how long I sat there, trying to make sense of it. James had told me he grew up in Connecticut, that his father was a college professor who died when James was in high school, that his mother had passed away from cancer just before we met. He said he'd gone to Boston University, that he'd played tennis in college. Every single thing he'd told me was a lie. When he called me that night from Chicago, I answered like I always did. "Hey babe," I said, my voice somehow steady even though my hands were shaking. "How's the conference?" "Exhausting," he said, and he sounded tired, genuine. "I miss you. I'll be home tomorrow night. Want me to pick up that Thai food you like?" "That sounds perfect," I heard myself say. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing, the cats, the dishwasher, what we'd watch on TV when he got home. I was conversing on autopilot while my brain screamed questions. Who are you? Who have I been sleeping next to for 9 years? Why did you lie? After we hung up, I took pictures of everything in the cabinet with my phone. Then I carefully put it all back exactly as I'd found it, locked the cabinet, and put the key back under the drawer. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about all the little things that suddenly made sense. James never wanted to visit his hometown in Connecticut. He had no childhood friends. No old photos. When I'd asked about meeting his extended family, he'd always said they were estranged, that it was painful to talk about. He'd love-bombed me so hard in the beginning of our relationship, intense, romantic, moving fast, and I'd been so flattered by his devotion that I never questioned why he seemed to have no past. He came home the next night with Thai food and roses, kissed me at the door like he always did. "I missed you so much," he said, and he seemed to mean it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him and demand answers. But some instinct told me to wait, to think, to figure out what I was dealing with before I confronted him. "Missed you too," I said, and we ate dinner while he told me about the conference, and I pretended everything was normal. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. I went full investigator mode. While James was at work, I searched every inch of our house. I found a burner phone hidden in the garage, taped behind a shelf. It was turned off. When I powered it on, there were no recent calls or texts, but there were 3 contacts saved: Mom, Kay, and Dr. Stevens. I didn't call any of them. Not yet. I searched online for Marcus Wells from Millfield, Ohio. I found a few old social media profiles that had been abandoned 12 years ago. The photos matched the ones in James's cabinet, that same young man with the uncertain smile. In one photo, he was with an older woman who must have been his mother, both of them squinting in the sun in front of a modest house. In another, he was with a girl, their arms around each other, both of them wearing basketball jerseys. I reverse searched the girl's face and found her current Instagram. Her name was Kelly Hartman. She lived in Columbus now, worked as a dental hygienist, was married with 2 kids. Her Instagram was public, full of suburban mom content, kids' birthday parties, girls' nights out, inspirational quotes. I spent 2 days debating whether to message her. What would I even say? "Hi, did you know my husband used to be someone else?" But I needed answers, and James clearly wasn't going to give them to me. I created a fake Instagram account and sent her a DM. "Hi, this might sound weird, but I'm trying to get in touch with Marcus Wells from Millfield. I think you might have known him. It's about a high school reunion." She responded within a few hours. "Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in forever. I don't know where Marcus is. We lost touch years ago. He kind of fell off the face of the earth after his mom died." Is he okay? His mom died. James's mother wasn't dead. Or, Marcus's mother was dead. I didn't even know how to think about this anymore. I replied, "Oh no, I didn't know about his mom. I'm so sorry. Do you remember when that was?" "It was right after he dropped out of college," she wrote back. "Maybe 13 years ago? It was really sudden, a car accident. Marcus was devastated. We dated in high school and stayed friends after, but after his mom died, he just changed. Got really withdrawn. Stopped answering texts. Last I heard he'd moved away. I always wondered what happened to him. If you find him, tell him Kelly says hi." I thanked her and logged out, my hands shaking. James came home that night and found me crying at the kitchen table. "Babe, what's wrong?" He rushed over, all concern, wrapping his arms around me. "Just a hard day," I managed to say. "Work stuff." He held me, stroked my hair, made me tea. He was so convincing. If I didn't know better, I'd think he was the most caring husband in the world. That night, while he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out what to do. Because here's the thing that really messed with my head. Except for the massive lie about his identity, James had been a good husband. He was kind. He was faithful, as far as I could tell. He was supportive of my career. We had fun together. We rarely fought. Was it possible that Marcus Wells had simply wanted to escape a painful past and reinvent himself? Was that so terrible? People changed their names. People left their old lives behind. Maybe I was the crazy one for snooping, for not just asking him directly. But the locked cabinet, the burner phone, the elaborate backstory, that wasn't just leaving the past behind. That was constructing a completely false identity. I decided I needed to know more before confronting him. So I did something I'm not proud of. I called Dr. Stevens. The burner phone had been powered off for what looked like months, so I figured James wasn't actively using it anymore. I used my own phone, blocked my number, and called the contact saved as Dr. Stevens. A woman answered on the third ring. Dr. Stevens's office, this is Marie. Hi, I said, my voice shaking. I'm calling on behalf of Marcus Wells. He needs to schedule a follow-up appointment. There was a pause. Marcus Wells? Yes. Another pause, longer this time. Ma'am, Marcus Wells hasn't been a patient here in over 10 years. Dr. Stevens retired 5 years ago. Oh, I said. I'm sorry, I must have the wrong information. May I ask who you are? Marie's voice had shifted, become more cautious. I hung up. My heart was racing. What kind of doctor keeps records for 10+ years? I searched Dr. Stevens, along with Millfield, Ohio, and Marcus Wells. I found an obituary from 11 years ago. Dr. Robert Stevens, beloved psychiatrist, dedicated to serving the mental health needs of rural Ohio communities, died at age 72. A psychiatrist. Marcus Wells had been seeing a psychiatrist. That night, I barely touched my dinner. James noticed. You've been off all week, he said gently. Want to talk about it? I looked at this man I'd shared a bed with for 6 years, who knew my body better than anyone, who could make me laugh until I cried, who wanted to have children with me. I didn't know him at all. I found the locked filing cabinet, I said. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. For just a second, less than a second, his face went completely blank. Then the concerned husband expression slid back into place. What filing cabinet? In your office. The one with the warranty documents. Except it wasn't warranty documents, was it? He set down his fork very carefully. Honey. Don't, I said. Don't, honey, me. I know about Marcus Wells. I know you changed your name. I know your mother died in a car accident 13 years ago, not from cancer before we met. I know you're from Ohio, not Connecticut. I know you never went to Boston University. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. When James finally spoke, his voice was different. Flatter. How much do you know? I want to hear it from you, I said. All of it. The truth this time. He stood up from the table and walked to the window, his back to me. When he turned around, his face looked different too. Like a mask had slipped off. You want the truth? He said. Okay. My name was Marcus Wells. I grew up poor in Millfield, Ohio. My dad died when I was a kid. My mom worked herself to death trying to keep us afloat. I was nobody. I was going nowhere. Community college dropout, no prospects, living in a shitty apartment, working at a gas station. Depressed as hell, barely functioning. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. And then my mom died. Car accident, like you said. She was everything I had. After she died, I had nothing. No family, no real friends, no future. I was 21 years old and my life was essentially over before it started. So you decided to become someone else, I said. I decided to become who I should have been, he corrected. Who I was meant to be before circumstances fucked me over. You know what I realized after Mom died? Nobody really knew me. I'd moved around so much as a kid, made no lasting connections. I had no extended family. The few people who knew Marcus Wells wouldn't miss him. So I thought, what if Marcus Wells just stopped existing? What if I started over as someone whose life wasn't already ruined? That's insane, I whispered. Is it? His eyes were intense now. I legally changed my name. I got my GED officially registered under my new name. I moved to a city where no one knew me. I worked 3 jobs and put myself through online college courses. I created a LinkedIn profile, built a professional network, taught myself everything I needed to know to break into consulting. I worked my ass off, and I became successful. I became James Whitmore, and James Whitmore met you, and fell in love with you, and built a good life. But it's all a lie, I said. It's not a lie. He was getting agitated now. This is who I am. James Whitmore is more real than Marcus Wells ever was. Marcus was depressed, anxious, going nowhere. James is successful, confident, happy. I didn't commit any crimes. I didn't hurt anyone. I just gave myself a second chance. You lied to me, I said, my voice breaking. For 9 years. About everything. I love you, he said, and he moved toward me, reaching for my hands. That's not a lie. Everything between us is real. The life we built is real. Does it really matter who I was before? I pulled my hands away. Yes, it matters. How can I trust anything you say? How do I know this is even your real personality? How do I know you're not just playing a role? I'm not. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. Fuck, I knew this would happen. This is why I never told you. I knew you'd react like this. Like what? Like someone who just found out their entire marriage is based on a massive lie. Marcus Wells was miserable, he said, and his voice cracked. He wanted to die. Do you understand that? After Mom died, I thought about killing myself every single day. The only thing that saved me was the idea that I could just stop being Marcus. I could be someone new. Someone better. It's not a lie, it's survival. I felt tears streaming down my face. You should have told me. Before we got married, you should have told me. And you would have understood, he shot back. Be honest. If on our third date I'd said, hey, by the way, I completely reinvented myself and everything I told you about my past is fake, would you have stayed? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. I built something real, he said quietly. I built a real career. A real home. A real marriage. With you. That's not fake just because I changed my name and backstory. Where's your mother buried? I asked suddenly. He blinked. What? Your real mother. Marcus's mother. Where is she buried? Millfield Cemetery, he said after a pause. Why? Have you visited her grave in the last 12 years? His silence was answer enough. You didn't just leave Marcus Wells behind, I said. You left her behind too. Your mother, who worked herself to death for you. You erased her. Something flickered across his face. Pain, guilt, anger, I couldn't tell. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I was shouting now. I've been trying for a baby with you. What were you going to tell our kids? More lies? Or were you planning to tell them the truth eventually? Would I have been the only one in the dark forever? I don't know, he said, and for the first time, he sounded lost. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I just wanted to be happy. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be good enough for someone like you. We stood there in our kitchen, the dinner getting cold on the table, and I felt like I was watching our marriage shatter in real time. I need you to leave, I said. I need time to think. Babe, don't call me that. Just go stay at a hotel or something. I can't be around you right now. He looked like I'd slapped him, but he nodded. Okay, but we're going to work through this, right? We can get counseling. We can. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know anything right now. He packed a bag and left. I heard his car pull out of the driveway, and then I was alone in our perfect house with our 2 cats and the ruins of my perfect marriage. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been in this weird limbo. James has been staying at a hotel. He texts me every day, not pushy, just checking in, telling me he loves me, that he's here when I'm ready to talk. He sent me a long email explaining everything in more detail, how he'd planned the reinvention, how he'd gotten his documents, how he'd built his new identity. He swears he never committed fraud, that everything he has he earned legitimately, that James Whitmore is legally who he is now. I've been seeing a therapist. I told her everything. She asked me a question that I keep coming back to. If he'd told you the truth on your third date, would you have stayed? I've been thinking about that a lot. Here's what's fucking me up. I understand why he did it. Is that crazy? I get it. I grew up middle class, stable family, college paid for. I've never known the kind of desperation that makes you want to erase yourself and start over. I've never lost everything, and honestly, the Marcus Wells he described, depressed, directionless, trapped in poverty with no way out, he probably wouldn't have been able to build the life James built. Maybe he needed to become someone else to survive. But I also can't get past the lying. 9 years of lies. Every story about his childhood, his parents, his past, all fabricated. How do you recover from that? How do you trust someone again? And here's the really messed up part. I still love him. I love James, the person I've known for 9 years. That person is real to me, even if his backstory isn't. When I think about divorcing him, about splitting up our life, about never seeing him again, it physically hurts. But when I think about staying, about pretending this never happened, about building a life and raising kids with someone who could maintain such an elaborate life for so long, that terrifies me. Yesterday, I drove to Millfield, Ohio. I don't even know why. It took me 4 hours. It's a small town, run down, clearly hit hard by economic decline. I found the cemetery and walked around until I found it. Susan Marie Wells, 1960 to 2012, beloved mother. I stood at this stranger's grave and cried. For her, for Marcus, for James, for myself. This woman raised a son alone, worked 2 jobs, and died in a car accident at 52. And her son, who by all accounts she loved and who loved her, has been pretending she doesn't exist for 12 years. There was no one else at the grave. No flowers, no signs that anyone had visited in years. I left flowers there. I don't know why. It felt like the least I could do. On the drive home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this James Whitmore's wife? A man's voice, older, with an Ohio accent. My heart stopped. Who is this? My name is Tom Brennan. I'm a private investigator. I've been hired to locate Marcus Wells. I pulled over to the side of the highway, my hands shaking. Why? Ma'am, I can't discuss the details of my investigation. But I need to ask, is your husband Marcus Wells? I should have hung up. I should have refused to answer. But instead I heard myself say, who hired you? I'm not at liberty to say. But this is an urgent matter concerning the estate of Eleanor Wells. Who's Eleanor Wells? Marcus Wells's grandmother. She passed away 3 months ago. She left her entire estate to her grandson, but we've been unable to locate him. It's been 12 years since he's had any contact with the family. We tracked him through his name change records. I sat there on the side of I-71, cars whizzing past me, trying to process this. How much money are we talking about? Around $800,000, plus property. Ma'am, I know this must be shocking. But your husband needs to know about this. His grandmother wanted him to have this. She never stopped looking for him. After he gave me his contact information and hung up, I just sat there. James had a grandmother. Marcus had a grandmother. And she'd spent the last 12 years of her life trying to find her missing grandson, leaving him everything she had. He'd cut himself off so completely that he'd missed the fact that someone loved him, was looking for him, wanted to help him. I called James from the side of the highway. He answered on the first ring. Your grandmother died, I said. Eleanor Wells. 3 months ago. Silence. She left you $800,000. She'd been looking for you for 12 years. More silence, and then, how do you know this? A private investigator called me. They found you through your name change records. I was crying now. You had someone who loved you. Someone who was trying to find you. And you hid so well that she died without ever seeing you again. I heard him make a sound like he'd been punched. I didn't know. I didn't know she was looking. Mom said her family wanted nothing to do with this after my dad died. I thought. You assumed, I said. Just like you assumed I'd reject you if you told me the truth. You cut everyone out without giving them a chance. I need to see you, he said. Please. Can I come home? We need to talk about this. Yeah, I said, because suddenly I was so tired of being angry. Come home. We talked all night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in our entire relationship. He told me everything. About growing up poor, about his dad's death, about his mother's exhaustion and depression. About being bullied in school for his clothes, for his home situation. About developing severe anxiety and depression as a teenager. About the psychiatrist, Dr. Stevens, who'd been the only person who seemed to understand him. About his mother's death. How he'd fallen apart. How he'd spent 3 months barely leaving his apartment, seriously planning his suicide. How one day he woke up and thought, what if I just became someone else? What if I could start over? About researching how to legally change his name, how to build a new identity. About the fear and excitement of moving to a new city where no one knew him, where he could be anyone. About how James Whitmore started as a role he was playing, but gradually became who he really was. Or at least, who he wanted to be. "I'm not proud of the lying," he said. "I know it was wrong. But I also don't know if I'd still be alive if I hadn't done it." Marcus Wells wanted to die. James Whitmore wanted to live. "But they're the same person," I said. "Are they?" He looked at me with those eyes I knew so well, and yet now seemed to belong to a stranger. "I'm not the same person I was at 21. Are you?" It was a fair point. "I'm not the same person I was at 23 when we met. None of us are the same people we were years ago. But there's a difference between personal growth and complete identity erasure." "What about your grandmother?" I asked. "Are you going to claim the inheritance?" He was quiet for a long time. "I don't know if I deserve it. She wanted you to have it. She spent her last years looking for you." "Yeah," he said, and he started crying. Really crying, the kind of grief that's been buried for years. I fucked up. I thought I was cutting out all the pain, but I cut out everyone who loved me too. I didn't know my grandmother was trying to find me. Mom always said her family blamed her for marrying my dad, for how our lives turned out. I believed it. I held him while he cried, and I cried too, for all the waste and pain and missed chances. "I need to go back," he said finally. "To Millfield. I need to see my mom's grave. I need to, I don't know, make peace with Marcus Wells, I guess. I already went," I admitted. "I left flowers on your mom's grave." He looked at me with such raw emotion that it broke my heart all over again. "You did?" She deserved to be remembered. We sat there in the pre-dawn light of our living room, exhausted and emotionally wrung out. "Where do we go from here?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I need you to understand something. What you did, the lying, that broke my trust. That's not something you can just fix overnight. We're going to need serious counseling. You're going to need to be completely transparent from now on. No more secrets, no more locked cabinets, no more mysterious burner phones. And I'm going to need time. I don't know if I can get past this. But you're willing to try?" I thought about it, really thought about it. About the man I fell in love with and the man he used to be and the question of whether they're the same person. About the fact that we all create ourselves to some extent, all tell stories about who we are that emphasize some truths and hide others. What James did was extreme. But was it fundamentally different from anyone else who moves to a new city and reinvents themselves? From anyone who leaves their past behind to become someone new? I thought about Eleanor Wells, who loved her grandson enough to spend her last years looking for him. About Susan Wells, who worked herself to death for her son. About Kelly from Ohio, who still wondered what happened to her old friend Marcus. About all the people James had cut out of his life because he thought they wouldn't accept him. "I'm willing to try," I said. "But things have to change. You have to change. You need to stop running from Marcus Wells. You don't have to become him again, but you can't keep pretending he never existed." "Okay," he said. "Okay. I'll do therapy. I'll do whatever you need. And I'll go back to Ohio. I'll visit my mom's grave. I'll deal with the inheritance. He took a shaky breath. "I'll try to be honest. Really honest. Even when it's hard. That's all I'm asking." We held each other as the sun came up, and I didn't know if we'd make it through this or not. But I knew I wanted to try. Update. Thank you all for the responses. I've read every comment, even though I haven't replied to many. The feedback has been mixed. Some of you think I'm an idiot for even considering staying with him. Some of you think I'm overreacting to what was essentially a victimless crime. Some of you shared your own stories of reinventing yourselves, and those particularly hit home. Here's where things stand. James and I went to Millfield together last weekend. He visited his mother's grave for the first time in 13 years. He broke down completely, and I held him while he apologized to a woman who couldn't hear him anymore. It was one of the most painful things I've ever witnessed. We met with the private investigator and got information about Eleanor Wells. She was his mom's mother, and she'd apparently tried to stay in Marcus's life after his dad died, but Susan, his mom, had cut her off during a bitter argument about money. They'd been estranged for years. After Susan died, Eleanor tried to find Marcus to reconcile, but by then he'd already disappeared. James inherited $784,000, a house in Millfield, currently being rented out, and some land. He immediately broke down again when he saw pictures of his grandmother, an elderly woman with his eyes, who'd died alone, still looking for her grandson. We've started couples counseling. Our therapist is intense. She's not letting James off the hook for the lying, but she's also pushing me to examine my own relationship patterns and why I might have been drawn to someone who seemed so perfect and undemanding. That's been uncomfortable to confront. James has started individual therapy too. His new therapist thinks he might have undiagnosed and untreated PTSD from his father's death and the subsequent poverty and instability, compounded by his mother's sudden death. The identity change might have been a maladaptive coping mechanism. None of this excuses the lying, but it helps me understand it. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. James isn't a con artist. He didn't marry me for money. I make decent money, but so does he, and he'd built his career before we met. He didn't scam anyone or commit crimes. His lawyer confirmed that everything he did was legal, if ethically questionable. He didn't cheat on me or abuse me. He just wanted to be someone else so badly that he made it happen. Is that forgivable? I still don't know. But I know I'm not ready to give up on my marriage yet. We're taking it day by day. He's moved back home, but we're sleeping in separate rooms for now. We're doing the work. He's been obsessively honest about everything, even small things, to the point where it's almost annoying. I'm going to the gym. I'll be back in 90 minutes. Here's the exact location I'll be at. Do you want me to share my location on my phone? We're planning a memorial service for his mother and grandmother. James reached out to Kelly from Ohio, and they're going to meet for coffee next month. He's starting to build bridges to the past instead of burning them. He's also decided to donate half of the inheritance to mental health charities that serve low-income communities in Ohio. Eleanor wanted to help me, he said. The best way I can honor that is to help people like Marcus Wells. People who are drowning and don't know how to save themselves. As for kids, we're holding off on trying. Obviously, we need to rebuild our foundation before we can think about bringing a child into this. I don't know if we're going to make it. Some days I look at him and see James, my husband, the man I love. Other days I look at him and see a stranger who is capable of maintaining an elaborate lie for a decade. Those days are harder. But I think about what my therapist asked me. If he'd told you the truth early on, would you have stayed? And I've realized the answer is probably no. I would have thought it was too weird, too risky, too much baggage. I would have walked away from someone who turned out to be, lies aside, a genuinely good partner. That's made me question a lot of things about myself. About how we all perform versions of ourselves, especially early in relationships. About how we all have pasts we're not proud of and pain we don't fully share. About the difference between privacy and deception, between reinvention and lying. What James did was extreme. But I'm starting to understand that it came from a place of profound pain and desperation, not malice. So we're trying. That's all I can say. We're trying to build something honest out of the wreckage. To everyone who shared their own stories, thank you. To everyone who called me an idiot, I hear you, and I might be one. To everyone who said relationships are complicated and messy and sometimes you have to figure out your own path even when it's not what everyone else would choose. Thank you most of all. I'll update again if anything major changes. For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to figure out if you can build a real marriage on a foundation that started with lies, if enough honesty and work and love can repair what's been broken. Wish me luck. I think I'm going to need it. Edit. ****. A few people have asked what I'd tell someone in a similar situation. Honestly, I don't know. Every relationship is different. Every lie is different. What I do know is this. Trust your gut, ask the hard questions, and don't let anyone convince you that your feelings are wrong. If something feels off, investigate. And if you find out your partner has been lying to you, take the time you need to decide what you want. Don't let anyone rush you into forgiveness or into leaving. It's your life, your choice. And if you're someone who's considering reinventing yourself the way James did, I get it. I understand the desire to escape pain and start fresh. But please talk to a therapist first. Find healthier ways to heal. The lies will catch up to you eventually, and they'll hurt people you love. There has to be a better way. Anyway, thanks for reading my novel-length post. I needed to get it all out,